So all this bill does is give an alternative form of marriage for those pastors and other individuals who have a conscientious objection to the current pathway to marriage in our law.
So what in your legislation would stop a 16-year-old from going down with someone else to the courthouse and getting this done, since there's no age restrictions within your law?
Again, I believe the way this legislation would be construed with the courts and based on the common law pathway, I think it would be construed that minors would not be able to enter into this.
So we're going to take the assumption that they would not include minors in this.
Well, everything on every bill up here, there's a bit of an assumption because we never know what court will say what on anything.
Is there no age limit in this bill?
My understanding, 18 is the way this would be construed.
I just want to make sure there wasn't an explicit age limit. My concern...
No, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't understand your question. No, there is not an explicit age limit.
Of course, we have strict age limits on marriage in Tennessee, and I don't think we want to get away from that.
You're aware that our current law does have an age limit.
Yes.
We're going to pass this bill out with no age limit on here. I would hope that we would consider that and vote against this bill.
We're making a whole bunch to do and getting off on in the weeds here. Age 17 still applicable?
No, sir. That applies to marriage licenses. This creates a different part.
This bill does not come from a place of kindness and understanding, but rather a place of prejudice and contempt. The rhetoric behind this bill implies that gay men and women have devalued or tainted the marriage process in Tennessee, a separate registry, religion as a guise to avoid using the same licenses afforded to same-sex couples. The nicest word that comes to mind is silly. Make no mistake about it, same-sex marriage is marriage. Bothered feelings are no basis for obstructing the equal dignity we as LGBT people expect as citizens of the greatest country in the world. May God continue to bless Tennessee.
So from the party that is currently busy calling everyone who doesn't agree with their political philosophies pedophiles, this is the Tennessee Republican Party that is now advancing a bill that eliminates age requirements for marriages, meaning theoretically, a 9-year-old could get married to someone. I'm not saying that all those Republicans fear-mongering about groomers are projecting, but yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, it's almost beyond parody how poor the timing of this is. Republicans have been falling over themselves desperately trying to label Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson as being soft on pedophiles because of sentencing recommendations that are perfectly in line with other sentences handed down by Republican judges, but still, they cry pedophilia. And in Florida, when Disney spoke out against the Republicans' depraved Don't Say Gay bill, again Republicans have resorted to calling Disney, of all companies, groomers for pedophiles. Apparently anyone that doesn't agree with the most depraved elements of the GOP's politics are all just pedophiles now. And yet, at the exact same time, Tennessee Republicans are literally advancing a bill that abolishes the age limit for marriages. The hypocrisy could not be more obvious if it was tattooed on their foreheads. Now, the bill is HB 233, and it gives Tennesseans, quote, an alternative form of marriage for those who have a, quote, conscientious objection to the current pathway, a reference to same-sex marriage. In other words, they've decided that their marriage is sullied because LGBT Americans can also be married. Somehow their rights are being curtailed by the existence of other people having rights. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Also, just a side note, there's something called 90 Day Fiancé, a reality show that follows couples who've applied for a K-1 visa, available only to foreign fiancés of US citizens, and therefore have 90 days to get married. But same-sex marriage destroyed the sanctity of marriage? Donald Trump has been married 3 times, and in his most recent marriage, he used campaign funds to pay off a porn star for an affair that he had while his wife was at home pregnant with their youngest son. So I've got some bad news for those Republicans out there who think that straight people are somehow preserving the sanctity of marriage. The fact is that a bill like this would serve almost uniquely as a means to legalize statutory rape, and not the kind where a bunch of lunatic Republicans call Mickey Mouse a pedophile. The actual kind wherein these people seek out laws just like this one, saying that they can marry a child of any age and therefore can legally have sex with a minor. Count on Republicans to introduce this kind of legislation while pointing fingers at everyone else. Tennessee actually ranks the 13th highest state in child marriages per capita, with about 10,000 children in the state granted marriage licenses in the last 2 decades. In fact, of the top 20 states when it comes to child marriages per capita, 17 of them voted for Trump in the last election. I'm sorry, but I will never get over how these Republicans can stand up with a straight face and accuse Democrats of supporting policies that hurt children when time and time again the perversion is coming from their own backyards. Because for the umpteenth time, every accusation is a confession. So maybe instead of listening to these Republicans attack everyone with a pulse as pedophiles and groomers, take a look at the bills they're trying to pass themselves. Take a look at the people in their ranks. People like Jim Jordan, credibly accused of ignoring the sexual abuse of hundreds of students while he was a wrestling coach. People like Matt Gaetz, who's currently being investigated for child sex trafficking. The double standard would be almost funny if it wasn't so dangerous and depraved. So the next time you see a Republican pointing their fingers and accusing someone on the left of something horrific, chances are they're telling on themselves. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.